All right, thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is President Heminger. Today is Monday, May 20th. This is the May General Membership Meeting of the NAACP Arlington Branch. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Yes, we have President Heminger, who is present. First Vice President James Younger.
Present.
Second Vice President Laurel Langhorne. Secretary Wanda Younger, present. Assistant Secretary Kathleen McSweeney. Treasurer Adriana Spain.
Present.
Executive Committee at Large Karen Nightingale will not be with us this evening. Executive Committee at Large Kellen McBeth. Executive Committee at Large Nadia Conyers. Communications, Leah Matterall will not be with us this evening. Legal Redress, Criminal Justice, Amy Stipsel.
Present.
Economic Development and Labor, Gary Gaston.
Present.
Education, Tia Alfred.
Present.
Environmental and Health, Tasia Iglesias. Housing, Wells Harrell.
Present.
Political Action, Jan Marie Pena. Is present. Religious Affairs, Pastor Davis. Religious Affairs, Rosa Dunkley.
Present.
That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We're going to jump right in. Folks, if you see me looking around, I'm trying my best not to look crazy, but I have a couple monitors open, so just bear with me. Sister Dunkley, could you open us up in a word of prayer and bless this evening's forum?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come, Father God, to say thank you, Lord, for another day. Well, Father God, as we prepare to go into this meeting, Father God, just let everything be done decent and in order, that you would get the glory. God, bless each and every person under the sound of my voice. Lord God, I ask that you would cover the presidents, Father God, the vice president, and the secretary, and all others, Father God, under the sound of my voice, as we continue to do your work, God. We ask, Father God, that you continue to keep us and strengthen us. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right, so good evening. We're going to kick things off with a little bit of business, and we're going to get right into the candidate forum, which I know many of you came to hear. We have a really exciting forum this evening, but before we do, National has established a particular way that all branches across the nation should conduct meetings. Obviously, we'd like to have a candidate forum tonight, and this type of meeting isn't in our bylaws. We can still do it, but a member would need to suspend the rules. Would any member like to make that motion this evening?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and it's been properly seconded. There's a motion on the floor to suspend the rules. It's been properly moved.
I'm okay.
Is there any further discussion? Any questions, comments, concerns?
I'm okay.
Will all those members in favor of supporting this motion, would you please say aye?
Aye.
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 All members who oppose, please say nay. Any members abstaining? Okay, Madam Secretary, let the record reflect. That was a unanimous vote. Before I go into the first agenda item, I did see at least one elected official. I think I saw County Board Member Cunningham. Is that right? Are you with us, County Board Member?
I am. Yes, thank you. Good to be here.
Would you like to say a couple words to our membership?
No, just happy to be here, and thank you for, as always, protecting voting rights and helping our community make good choices.
Absolutely. I see our Commonwealth's attorney is with us this evening. Madam Commonwealth's attorney, would you like to address the membership?
Still not unmuting. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thanks to the NAACP for hosting this forum. And it's heartening to see that there are 73 participants here. So I'm excited to hear from the county board candidates.
Oh man. Okay, awesome. Just as I was getting you spotlighted. All right, thank you for being here. I know you're a member and you're here with us, as is County Board Member Cunningham, every month. So I appreciate that. Madam Secretary, are we missing any other elected officials at this time?
We have our to be elected school board member, Ms. Kathleen Clark.
Ms. Clark, would you like to address the membership?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having this important forum here tonight. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much for being here. I think that is all the electeds. I'm sure a couple others will pop in throughout the night, and we'll be sure to recognize them as they join us. Madam Treasurer, I'm sorry, Mr. Austin, are you with us before we go to Treasurer?
I'm here.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Austin. I'm going to go ahead and yield to you for the presentation of the end of year financial audit report. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, good evening. As required by bylaws from the NAACP, the books of the unit shall be audited annually. In order to accomplish this, President Heminger appointed a committee that composed of Nadia Conyers, Latanya Gowan, Jan-Marie Pena, James Younger, and myself. The committee audited the monthly financial reports of the branch, which comprised of monthly bank statements from the Arlington Community Federal Credit Union, and that was from the period of January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. The national office has a bookkeeping guide that they require you to use in doing an audit. And some of the objectives of that audit are to determine that the financial reports are in agreement or reconciled with unit records, determine whether the financial reports items are properly classified, determine whether cash balances properly reflect all cash and cash equivalents on hand, and to determine whether cash balances are properly classified in the financial report, and adequate disclosure is made of restricted funds. On January 1, 2023, there was $320,341.39 in the business savings account, $29,652.17 in the business rewards checking account, for a total of $349,993.56. At the end of the year, on December 31st, the business savings account balance was $5,000. The business rewards checking account was $33,851.39. And in August of 2023, the branch opened up a new scholarship checking account. And that total was $245,322.04. And the total year-end balance, $284,173.43. And these are the audit results. The bank statements were in agreement with the monthly treasury report. We reviewed the checkbooks and verified that the recipients of checks matched the monthly treasurer's report. As I said, the bank did add a restricted account to make scholarship payments. The financial reports did not reflect adequate disclosure of restricted funds. All monies were accounted for and properly documented in the monthly financial reports. And copies of checks, receipts, and invoices were not available for verification purposes. We also conducted an audit of the scholarship checks. And if you go down, you'll see the results of that. The scholarship checks were reconciled with the bank statements. Okay. And these are some of the audit committee recommendations. The branch has significant funds in the account, making it imperative that guidelines from the NAACP National Office Unit Financial and Bookkeeping Guide be followed. Section 3, Unit Accounting, Bookkeeping, and Reporting Procedures recommends using computerized accounting system. Funds should be classified as either restricted or unrestricted, and all disbursements should be made by check. Obtain copies of credit union bank checks for verification purposes. All individuals authorized to withdraw funds from the bank accounts must be bonded at the expense of the branch. The treasurer's SharePoint should include digital copies of all checks, incoming and outgoing, bank statements, invoices, and receipts. All audit committee members should be given temporary access to SharePoint, which is where the account records are kept. Audit the previous scholarship payments dating back to the initial Amazon checks. And lastly, provide the treasurer and the secretary with the means to upload copies of checks, receipts, and invoices into SharePoint. And that is the end of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. At this time, I'd entertain any questions from any members on the presentation of that report. Okay, hearing none, it is in order for us to, if it pleases the membership, to receive and adopt that report as presented. Would any member like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and adopt the 2023 financial audit report and its recommendations.
A second.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to receive and adopt the 2023 end of year financial audit report as presented this evening. Is there any further discussion? Last opportunity to comment. Okay, sensing none, will all those members in favor of adopting that report as presented and its recommendations, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, you have the same right? Any abstentions? Madam Secretary, that appears to be a unanimous vote. Mr. Austin, before I let you go, I just wanted to thank you again. I know you presented this to the executive committee already, but we certainly appreciate the depth and thoroughness of your report. We appreciate those recommendations. And I failed to mention that you had faithfully served this branch in the capacity of treasurer for many years. So we appreciate all that you do, and we appreciate your service to the association. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to help.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move us on to the April 2024 financial report. Madam Treasurer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The financial report for April. So we had in our income or revenue through PayPal, received donations of $1,894.37 and $517.41 restricted to branch scholarships. For expenses, we had a total of $680 $1,004.90. I think that's the right one. It's a little small on my screen. There was no changes to our reserves account, which has a balance of $22,000, and no change to our scholarships account, where we have a balance of $255,322.04. For our operations, our ending balance is $10,749.14. And that is the financial report for April.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Are there any questions from members on the April financial report? Okay, sensing none, will all those members in favor of adopting this report as presented and subject to audit, would you please say aye?
Aye.
And all those members opposing, please say nay. Any members abstaining? Thank you. That vote carries unanimously. Madam Treasurer, if I could hold you here just for one moment. Madam Secretary, are you able to pull up the March financial report? Is it handy? If not, we can come back to it later.
If we can come back to it.
Okay, great. I know our treasurer was out sick last month, so we want to just ratify that report. There are no anomalies that the executive committee found. We'll come back to that. Before I go to the next agenda item, we do need to take a formal vote. I am going to read a couple things, and what I'm about to read is a summary of some of the actions that our branch has taken relative to the in-custody deaths at the Arlington County Detention Center. So, of course, we've written a series of letters. We've met with several elected officials across the county, even across the state. We've written letters to the editor. We've met with the Attorney General's office. We've met with the Department of Justice. We've met with our delegation that represents us in the General Assembly. We've met with the family members. We've met with the sheriff, with the police department. I'm just reading a series of events. We've had town halls. We've had workshops. We've had roundtables. We wrote a letter to the Department of Justice. We've spoken publicly. There was an op-ed in the Washington Post that came out about this. A series of actions, pages and pages of actions that our branch has taken. So we are the oldest and largest civil rights organization. There's no fight that we will not stray from in the pursuit of justice. And so at this time, we have our executive committee feels as though we have done everything that we could possibly do besides taking legal action to obtain some of the records that we need to pursue that justice. So at this time, I'm seeking any member that would like to introduce a motion relative to the in-custody deaths at the detention center.
Hi, good evening. Amy Stitzel here. I would like to move to hire an attorney to consult and take court action if agreed and advised.
Okay, great. So there's a motion on the floor, and correct me if I get the wording on your motion wrong, but it's the approval to hire an attorney to consult and take court action if advised and obtain records regarding individuals who passed away at the Arlington County Detention Center. Do you accept that? Okay, great. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. I heard second VP. There's a motion on the floor. It's been properly moved and seconded. This motion is to, again, hire an attorney and consult and take court action if advised, and agree to obtain court records regarding individuals who passed away at the Arlington County Detention Center. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none, will all those members in favor of supporting that motion, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All members that oppose, please say nay. And any members abstaining? Okay, hearing none, Madam Secretary, another unanimous vote. At this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to our first vice president for any comments that you'd like to provide to our membership.
None at this time.
Thank you. I see that our second vice president has joined. Any comments that you'd like to have for our membership this evening? Are you with the second VP? Okay, we'll come back to second VP. I'm going to bring up the chair of our Economic Development and Labor Committee for a brief presentation. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. I'm Gary Gaston, the chair of the Economic and Development Committee. I would like to go over some things that we are currently working on. Here's an update on the Veterans Hiring Event. We're having an event on the 20th of June at Joint Base Meyer Henderson Hall. It would be at the Spates Club. This is for active duty military members, spouses, and veterans. However, we are allowing job seekers from the public to attend this event. It's in partnership with Transition Assistant Program, Joint Base Myers Henderson Hall, and the Northern Virginia's Disabled Veterans Outreach Program Manager and VEC Woodbridge, Virginia. Right now, it's tentative schedule for 18 June from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This may change. The sponsor of the event is Joint Command Realty. We're donating $1,000 to the event for food and any other items we may need. Federal companies will be there, government contractors, and private companies will be available. We will have a photographer available to take profiles, pics for LinkedIn, and we'll have resume writers available to review your resume on the spot. I will be conducting a federal hiring process webinar on the 18th of June. Non-military ID holders, if you're going to come through the gate, make sure you have a valid driver license, car insurance, and make sure your vehicle registration is updated, and your passengers must have an ID. On the federal hiring process, this is an action item for the committee. We're planning to do this on the 18th of June, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. No calls to the attendees. We're going to cover topics such as the federal resume, veteran preference, eligibility for federal employment, how do you qualify for federal jobs, suitability, talking about the background investigation, going through the general schedule pay scale, and it's so much more we're going to talk about. Normally, this class is scheduled to go to 1 p.m., but sometimes it go over to 1:30 or so, but it's a great class. We also have partnered with New York Life to provide a financial literacy seminar. This is another action item for the committee. The date is to be determined. Both instructors are with New York Life. This will be a 45 to 60-minute session and will be live or in person. No calls for this event. Topics: protecting your assets, the importance of budgeting and planning ahead, and retirement planning, and much more. And we're also planning to start conducting home buyers seminars in partnership with VA Housing. The trainers for this event, they must be certified through VA. As the real estate agent, I will be the instructor for that. I'm certified through VA Housing. The loan officer, they have a list of loan officers on their website that we can reach out to, as well as the housing counselors. Settlement officer would be Wendy from Universal Title. She's the office manager. Finance specialist, to be determined. Home inspector will be Joe, the senior inspector for VA Home Inspect. On 1 June, from 8:30 to 2:45, I'm partnering with Latino Economic Development Corporation, and we'll be giving this seminar located at 909 South Dinwiddie Street. The registration link is below. If you would like to come and check it out, see what we talk about. You'll learn a lot of information about the home buying process. Virginia Housing also has another great program, and I think we need to get more information about the services or the programs that are available through Virginia Housing. They have down payment assistance programs. They have closing cost assistance available for home buyers. Now this program, sponsoring and revitalizing the community program, Arlington County is authorized or eligible for this program. They are allocating anywhere between $200,000 to $8 million to organizations to provide this grant to home buyers. They will also award each agency $5,000 each 6 months for administrative fees to market the service. The performance period is the 1st of July of this year until the end 30 June of 2025. Now, the problem with this program, it's a short application period, and the close date for this is May 31 in about a couple of weeks. The award announcement will be July the 15th. Eligible sponsors, we are the nonprofit housing organization, but you see local governments, redevelopment and housing authorities. Sponsors must partner with Virginia housing lenders. And as I said before, they have a list of lenders on their website. Mortgages will be given to first-time home buyers. But if you're planning to buy a home, this is a program you want to look at. The money doesn't last that long. Once the organization receives the money, they run out real fast. The next slide, I'm gonna show you a list of organizations. So if you're in the process of buying a home, you may wanna contact one of those organizations. But they will reduce your interest rate by 1 percentage point. Right now, the interest rates are right at 7%. So if you're in this program will allow your interest rate to be reduced to 6%. And this is forever throughout the life of the loan, and it is a grant. No mortgage extensions will be offered for unused allocations. Documents to submit with your application will be your W-9, the nonprofit determination, and the organization chart. There's an informational brief this week, the 23rd, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., and there is the registration link. I've talked to Frank Webster, the business development officer with Virginia Housing, and he would love to come and give the executive committee a presentation on this service right here that they provide and other services that are provided by Virginia Housing. And just to give you an idea of the organizations, and this program is for all residents in the state of Virginia. And here are all the organizations within the state that are signed up and was approved for the program in 2024. And as you can see, if you go through this list, there's not many organizations in Arlington. Well, there's not many organizations in Northern Virginia, but this is a program that's really needed in this area. But if we don't do it this year, certainly we should consider doing this next year. The other thing I would like to encourage everyone out there, if you're not active with NAACP Arlington, I would like for you to join my committee or any other committee within the organization. I've been here on the executive committee for a short time, but I'm very impressed with what the members and the executive committee members are doing within the community. Is very impressive. And I encourage you to participate. The next slide will be my contact information if you want to reach out to me so we can talk about how you can get started. You can call me on my telephone or you can send me an email. But other than the action items, I have no other nothing else to present. That's it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair. I wanted to bring Gary forward so that he could discuss all the great things that he's doing in his committee. He's one of the newest chairs, but as you know, if you're a member of this association, you know our branch is one of the most active branches in the entire nation. And so we could use your help. If anything that he mentioned tonight was of interest to you, I encourage you to reach out to him. He shared his information on the screen. I also dropped his information in the chat, and you can reach out to any of us and we'll put you in touch. We'd be happy to make that appointment for you. First VP, I see your hand is raised.
That was accidental, sorry.
Okay, no problem. All right, Madam Secretary, before I turn it over to our political action chair and committee, did I miss anything?
Other than we can approve the March report at the next meeting, treasurer's report.
Yeah, I'm working on getting that report. As soon as I get it, I will do that. So we may have to do that as the last official item. Madam Treasurer, do you have that report handy by chance?
I just emailed it to you and the secretary.
Okay, folks, bear with us. We just have a quick formality and we're going to turn it over. So as soon as that comes in, we'll pull it up. Madam Secretary, if you get it before me, go ahead and just share screen so that we can approve that report. While that's coming in, any questions for the Chair of Economic, Labor, and Development?
We just need to move to approve those events.
Go ahead, Chris. I see you got your hand raised, and we'll take that action as well.
Yeah, one of my questions I put in the chat too, the veterans hiring event, it states that non-military ID holders must have a driver's license.
If you're
Is a walker's ID acceptable, or it has to be a driver's license?
if you're driving through the gate, I should have clarified that. If you're walking, you could use that.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, it looks like I just got that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. And then Madam Treasurer, I think you may have sent them. Oh, it's in the tab. So I did have it all along by mistake. All right, so I'm going to seek unanimous consent to approve the events that the Chair of Economic Development and Labor has already mentioned. So is there any objection to our branch participating in those events? Any objection? Okay, hearing none, those events are approved. Congratulations, Mr. Chair. And then Madam Treasurer, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen if you want to present the March financial report.
Okay.
You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So what you have now, I think it's, yeah, April, so March. So for March was a brief report. We did not have any revenue come in that month of March. No change to our reserves account or scholarships account. And so we had a total of expenses of $445.95. That left our ending balance for our operations account at $9,018.26. And that is the March report.
Great, thanks so much. Any questions on that report from members? Okay, sensing none, any members like to introduce a motion for that report?
I move that
Go ahead, First VP.
I move that the treasurer's report be accepted as presented, subject to audit.
Great. Do we have a second? Thank you. Who was that?
Rosa.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve that report and accept it as presented, subject to audit. Will all those members in favor of accepting that report, please say aye.
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 All members that oppose, please say nay. And any members abstaining? All right, thanks so much, everyone, for allowing us to do a quick bit of business. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our Chair of Political Action. Before I did, I wanted to just make a brief announcement. You may be aware already, but I just wanted to formalize it for the record. We're in the final stages of receiving a $400,000 donation to place a bathroom in Green Valley. And so we've been in conversations with county leadership at the end of the year. November and December, we got a letter of commitment from the county. So in the coming days, we will push out a press release talking about the importance of that restroom and the facilities to that community, but also that $400,000 donation that we're prepared to make. So political action, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the NAACP Arlington branch and our Political Action Committee, I would like to welcome you to our County Board Candidate Forum for the June 18th Democratic primary election. My name is Jan Marie Pena. I'm the chair of our Political Action Committee, and I'm excited to help get us started tonight. So programs like the forum we are hosting tonight are vital to our civic engagement. We hope to have an informative conversation with the candidates that will allow you to leave the program engaged, informed, and better prepared to vote. As a reminder, the NAACP is a nonpartisan organization. We welcome people of all political parties, and we do not make any endorsements. And every election is important. The Democratic primary for the county board is the only competitive primary for a local office this spring. So it was really important that we hold a forum for this election. We're not advocating for any political party or candidate today. This program is about civic engagement and education. So in the chat, I'm going to drop a link that will direct you to more information on the upcoming primary election on June 18th, including the candidates running for each office, sample ballots, and information on how to vote. So let me put that in right now. But for tonight's program, we invited all candidates who are running in the June 18th Democratic primary election for the county board to participate. So during the discussion with the county board candidates, we'll ask a series of questions that are important to the work that we're doing in our branch, rotating who answers first. And I did want to give a big shout out and thank you to our committees for the thoughtful questions we're asking the candidates tonight. The chat will be disabled during the forum, but you can share any questions that you have directly with the hosts. We will reserve some time towards the end of the forum to take audience questions. So now I'm really pleased to introduce our moderator for tonight, Veronica Jackson. Veronica is in her 33rd year of teaching orchestra, and she absolutely loves it. She is highly sought after and regarded as a clinician and adjudicator. She currently serves as the vice president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Chi Omega chapter in Arlington. As vice president, she manages a myriad of programs and events centered around strengthening the sisterhood, empowering our families, building economic wealth, enhancing the environment, advocating for social justice, and uplifting the community. So we're really thrilled to have her here today. So I will turn it over to Veronica now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. I see that you all, you weathered the literal storm with all this rain that we've been having, and you made your way to this Zoom, and I'm sure you all look very nice. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, pardon me, with our program tonight. Just so that you know, all the candidates who are running in the Democratic primary for the Arlington Board race were invited to participate. Joining us for our discussion tonight, we have all of the candidates for the race. Now, presenting Mr. James DeVita, Ms. Julia Farnham, Ms. Tenley Peterson, Ms. Natalie Roy, Mr. Julius J.D. Spain. Look at all of these candidates. They are fired up and ready to go. Look at them. I'm so excited for this discussion tonight. And it is a discussion. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement, about 1.5 minutes to answer specific issues, questions around issues that were formulated, and then 1 minute for a closing statement. We will rotate who answers each question first, and then let them know when their time is up. So we're very excited about the links that will be in the chat for you, so you can get connected to their individual campaigns. All right, candidates, This is a tough question. We start with the hard questions first, okay? All right, so here we go. Could you please share if you are a member of the NAACP? First, Ms. DeVita.
Yes, I am.
Mr. DeVita, sorry, pardon me, Mr. DeVita.
Yes, I am.
Ms. Farnham?
I'm not, but I have attended your meetings and some of your functions.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Ms. Roy?
Sorry about that. Yes, I am.
Wonderful. And Mr. Spain?
Yes, I'm a Go Life member.
Thank you. All right. So now we'll have each candidate give 2 minutes for their opening statements. During your statements, candidates, could you please highlight what your top priorities would be for your term of office and how these priorities would affect Black and other residents of color in Arlington? We'll go in the same order, alphabetically. Mr. DeVita.
My name is James DeVita. I've been a practicing lawyer here in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area for 40 years. My wife and I have been living in Arlington since 1993 in the Penrose neighborhood, and we put both of our daughters through Wakefield High School. As a part of my practice, I've been a civil rights lawyer ever since 1990. And I used to work for the city of Washington, D.C., where I handled police brutality cases and racial discrimination cases. And when I left the government, I ended up turning around and ended up suing police officers and representing people who were the victims of racial discrimination. One case I'm particularly proud of, a case where I represented 7 Black Lives Matter protesters. Sure you remember the incident where George Floyd was killed by a police officer. 7 people who were out protesting that event came to my office. I represented them both in a criminal capacity and a civil capacity. I filed a lawsuit challenging the curfew law under which they were arrested. Our argument basically was that the law was overbroad. My clients were doing nothing more than chanting Black Lives Matter and holding up signs. They were arrested under the curfew law, which was designed to prevent looting and arson. And I pointed out to the court my clients weren't doing anything like that. And we argued that the statute was overbroad. And eventually the court did uphold the city, but I appealed that case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And that is a case I'm proud of. In terms of my priorities, I think that there's nothing more important than educating our children. I would like to see us spend more money on education, particularly trying to reduce class sizes. Also, we have one of the richest counties in the country. I don't understand why any of our children have to be in trailers. I would also like to see what we could do to reduce the commercial.
That is time.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And Mr. DeVita, thank you so much for your response. Did you want to have your face on the camera?
Yeah, I would. I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Okay, I think it looks like it's a device maybe over the actual lens.
Yeah, while everybody else is speaking, I'm going to try to get that.
You're working on it. You're working on it. Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. All right, Ms. Farnham, we'll give you 2 minutes with your opening statement.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate this. So my grandmother helped raise me, and her upbringing was one of poverty. She was one of 11 children. Her parents were immigrants, new to this country. They never learned to speak English. And really her experience instilled in me a desire to treat others with dignity and compassion. And that's a value that I really tried to instill in my 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters. You probably saw one of them walking by. They're in 3rd and 4th grade at Oak Ridge. And really, they're the reason why I'm running for office. I also worked for a number of years at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, a little over 15 years. And there, I really helped people achieve the American dream. I helped people from all over the world come here, and realize opportunity that they didn't necessarily have in their home countries, and also escape violence and situations that were not optimal for their safety and their well-being. And I also helped implement programs to help underserved communities and reaching out to these communities in rural areas and making sure that they got the services that they need. One of the other reasons why I'm running is because I also used to work for U.S. Capitol Police as Assistant Director of Intelligence. And I was there on January 6th, and I saw how divided we are as a country. And for me, it's really important that we have reasonable people who want to do the right thing at all levels of government. And so for me, one of the things that I've done since I left the Capitol Police, I left because I wrote a book. I wrote a book about right-wing extremism, particularly white supremacists and neo-Nazis, and how hate is harming our community and how hate never solves any problems. And for me, it's very important, particularly here in Arlington. I know some people have seen on Facebook, I wrote about an email I received a couple weeks ago, someone calling me an invader immigrant. So there is racism.
That is time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farnham. We'll now move to Ms. Peterson. Give us your opening statement highlighting top priorities for you while you're in office and priorities that will affect Black and other residents of color in Arlington.
Thank you. I'm Tenley Peterson. I'm a mother of 3 kids, an Arlington Public Schools mom, and a communications professional. I'm a longtime member and donor of the Southern Poverty Law Center and a recent member of the NAACP. I have more than a decade of experience on Arlington County's Planning Commission and Budget Commission, which are the 2 commissions most related to the day-to-day work of a county board member, so I can hit the ground running on day one. I've chaired Arlington's Budget Commission, where I led the community's review of the county's $1.5 billion annual budget, supporting our affordable housing and social safety net programs, and also working to increase the diversity of the commission itself. My lived experiences informs my values, and my values have informed my career choices. As a professional, I've made a career working for nonprofits. As a military spouse, I worked and lived all over the world in all different types of housing. My family of 5 currently lives in a high-rise 2-bedroom plus den. And as a mother and a substitute teacher, I want to raise all of our children in Arlington to be happy and healthy. Growing up, both of my parents were public servants. They taught me that public service is integral to being part of your community. And so I'm running for Arlington County Board because I love Arlington, and Arlington, my family has made Arlington our home. And we need to think long-term, not just about the Arlington we want now, but also the Arlington we will need a generation from now. I value being responsible stewards of our taxes and getting the most out of every single dollar. I value public education, one that addresses disparities and educates all of our children. And I value accessible and affordable housing so that everyone can enjoy what Arlington has to offer. Our children are counting on us to make responsible decisions today, and I would be honored to earn your #1 vote in the Democratic primary. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. We'll now move to Ms. Roy. Ms. Roy?
Thank you. I am Natalie Roy. I'm excited to be running for the Arlington County Board. Thank you to the Arlington NAACP for organizing this forum and for everything you've done over the years. And congratulations on that big $400,000 grant. That's terrific news. I'm a progressive Democrat, and throughout my 33+ years here in Arlington, I've contributed to my neighborhood, to the schools, to the business community, and to the county. I've been a civic association president, a PTA president, a member of 2 Arlington commissions. I currently sit on the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission, and my claim to fame, a high school girls varsity tennis coach at Yorktown High School for 17 years. I used to play college tennis at Duke University, and now I play more pickleball than tennis. I also bring decades of professional leadership experience running national nonprofits and working in government agencies on a range of environmental and gun violence prevention issues. I now have also a successful small real estate business where I connect people to communities. Most importantly, my husband and I have raised 3 beautiful daughters here, all of whom thrived in Arlington County schools. I consider myself super fortunate that I can pick up my granddaughter at her preschool in Green Valley and take her to my favorite coffee shop in Columbia Heights. Close-knit Arlington neighborhoods that's why we moved here decades ago. Last year, I stepped outside my comfort zone. I ran for the Arlington County Board. The idea was never on my radar. I am not a politician. It was the first time I'd run for political office, and I came very close. I felt strongly the county board was not listening to me or to many residents all throughout Arlington. And that applied to every neighborhood, whether it's Green Valley or Halls Hill or Madison Manor or where I'm from, Lyon Park. This year, I'm running again because of the exact same issues. The county seems more focused on catering to developers and bringing in new residents than on the people who are already living here in Arlington. There's no single issue on the ballot this year. What is on the ballot? The vision for our county. The vision, as I see it, is about restoring transparency and responsiveness. It is about truly affordable housing, fiscal responsibility, supporting our schools, tree canopy, transit-oriented development, livable and diverse communities. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Mr. Spain, we'd love to hear from you. Please highlight your top priorities and let us know how you will, how your priorities will affect Black and other residents of color in Arlington.
Yes, thank you to the NAACP of Arlington. Something's going on with James's screen here. I'm Julius J.D. Spain Sr., former president of the branch of this branch of the NAACP, and a regional vice president of the NAACP, where I led 13 branches, and I currently sit on the state level. My life has been dedicated to public service since the age of 18 when I joined the United States Marine Corps. So I see this nothing more than a continuum of service. The priorities that I want to really have resonate with us tonight and that I'm focused on are, one, our schools, right? I'm proud to be the only candidate among the 5 endorsed by the local education association, because investing in youth and helping our schools are critically important to our community. Next, I want to work on building out this innovative economy. I have the pleasure of sitting on George Mason University President's Innovation Council, where we talk about what does the new age economy look like. And anybody who understands what's happened post-COVID knows that the way we work, how we work has definitely changed. We have a commercial vacancy rate that's been going on for over a decade, and that problem has not been solved. So I want to bring new innovative businesses here to Arlington and directly correlate that to our school systems, to universities, so our new and our youth can have jobs here in Arlington for the future. And last, I would just say, many of you that know me, is I've always been a champion of mental health. So I think a successful 4 years for me, if I have anything to do with it, is to ensure that our DHS staff is fully staffed and that we have counselors throughout all agencies here in Arlington County. There's a myriad of issues we need to talk about, not just tree canopy, not just housing attainability, which is critically important and something that I had the pleasure of championing at the NAACP with expanded housing options. I don't second guess that at all, because housing is a human right. I think what we're going to talk about here tonight and how it affects Black and Brown communities is something critically important, because they have been left behind for many years, right?
That's time.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, everyone. I want to remind our participants, our attendees to our forum tonight, that the campaign websites are linked in the chat, and you can get more information about these wonderful candidates. All right, we're going to move on to our first question, and we're going to give each candidate an opportunity to spend 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes on each of these questions. Okay, so it's kind of like a what do you call a firing out your answers. All right, so here we go. This is a question around the topic of economic development and labor. How do you plan to ensure the economic development initiatives in Arlington County? Just being sure that they're inclusive and equitable, particularly in addressing the disparities in business ownership and income experienced by Black and other community members of color. I'm going to begin with Ms. Farnham.
Yeah, so I think, with we have an issue here in Arlington where we have a lot of vacancy. And I think that's a really good opportunity to bring in more of those mom and pop type shops, because Arlington does a relatively good job at bringing in larger businesses, but has not done as well as bringing in small businesses. And I think this is really a great opportunity to bring in a diverse array of different businesses. Like Columbia Pike, for example, there's a lot of vacancy there, and I love the diversity on Columbia Pike and how you can get, foods and goods and things from, every area of the world. And I would really like to see that developed. So I would like Arlington and the county board's role in that too is prioritizing attracting those types of businesses and making it easier for businesses. I'm a small business owner myself, and I know it can be challenging to navigate a lot of the requirements that Arlington has, and that's on top of like the state and federal requirements. So creating opportunities and education for people and navigating them through that process and giving them those opportunities, and maybe even helping with like grants to get those businesses started. But I think we do have a really great opportunity here with the vacancy that we have in Arlington to bring in a diverse group of people. And that will really make the community vibrant. We need that in this community.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to move on to Ms. Peterson.
Thank you very much. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do to better prioritize supporting businesses owned by people of color. One, through our site plan development process. As one of our kind of community benefits, we could work with developers on when we have mixed use developments, prioritizing space for women-owned, veteran-owned, and people of color owned businesses. When I was, so I'm one of the planning commissioners, and I was working on the Met Park for Amazon. And that was something that we as a planning commission worked with Amazon and said, we want these retail businesses that are going to be part of your development to be women-owned, veteran-owned, people of color owned. And they said, this is also one of our priorities, and we're going to make that happen. So I was really excited about that. I think with our Biz Launch program, we should also have a priority of funding businesses owned by people of color, looking at the 5 equity questions that we ask and make sure that's applying specifically to the Biz Launch program. And then also just looking at economic development, doing a better job of tracking and publicizing businesses owned by people of color. When it's February and it's Black History Month, and I'll often say like, oh, I'd love to go out to lots of restaurants this month that are owned by people of color. And I'll look for resources that are out there so I can kind of find some new businesses, and those don't exist. And same with Women's History Month, I'll try to find women-owned businesses, and we don't have a lot of resources like that currently. So I'd love for staff to be intentional about providing those resources to the county. Also, just looking at Economic Development's website, they don't currently showcase Green Valley as a neighborhood that the community could be, intentionally supporting it or attracting business to. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. We'll now move to Ms. Roy.
Thank you. A couple of key things on this front. I would really look to lift up this whole question and make this much more of a priority within the county government. We definitely have a need to bring in more Black-owned businesses, more diversity overall. And I'm a small business owner in the real estate field, and we've talked about this in terms of some of the struggles in terms of the climate, the economic development climate in Arlington, because it seems that it's more for what I've gathered and what has been what's shown is that there's a more friendly climate in Maryland and DC. So I think that Arlington overall needs to make this a priority. Just can't be one more thing that we're going to check a box for. We need to lift this up, make this a priority, and say we're going to actually diversify, bring in folks who we want to be in these shops. And that goes to my second part, which is we do have a huge alarming vacancy rate with the commercial sector, with our commercial buildings. This is an opportunity. We need to be much more proactive as a county to fill those spaces. And again, as a county board member, it's not just you're on the board, you're creating policy, but you're a convener, you're an advocate for the county. And we should be looking to work with the private sector partnerships to make sure that these vacancies are filled with with businesses, with civic institutions like the Black Heritage Museum of Arlington, making sure that we have elevated and bringing people permanent homes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roy. We'll move to Mr. Spain now.
Thank you for the opportunity on that question. So economic development, something I'm very proud of. A few years back, maybe 4 years ago, I stood up the Economic Development Committee at the NAACP because I knew there was a void between business, especially minority-owned businesses, and what's going on in Arlington. A few things that we can consider to help our minority businesses, in my opinion. One, we can look at the business tangible property tax and see if we can perhaps lower that a little bit or even waive it for some of our businesses. Why? Because those are the ones that are struggling to pay these rentals at some of these spots, whether it's in Columbia Pike, whether it's in Langston. The rental prices are going up, so that's where it's struggling. Secondly, what I think Arlington needs, and I've done this in corporate America, is we need to look at supplier diversity. And so with supplier diversity, what you do, you bring in some of your small businesses, right? Your minority-owned businesses, your LGBTQ plus businesses, disabilities businesses, and you tie that straight to governance, right? That way you have a direct pipeline working with some of these organizations in our community. I think we can incentivize that by bringing in new businesses to work directly with the county, but also still work with Arlington Economic Development and ask them to really actively recruit minority businesses and bring them, incentivize them to come to Arlington. Again, core commercial vacancy rate, y'all, late breaking news. We've been discussing it for a decade. No one's figured it out, okay? We've had empty buildings along the Pike. We've had them along Langston Boulevard. We need action, we need change, and it's gonna take intentionality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita, we can see you now.
I
Just
found
in time for you to answer this question.
Thank you so much. I look at it two ways. One is supply and the other one is protecting businesses. In terms of the commercial vacancy rate, 1 out of every 5 businesses in Arlington is vacant at this point. And what I would recommend is that we try to entice new business to come in with an introductory tax rate that's lower than currently being paid. There is a business licensing tax, there's a business property tax. And what I would do is give people who are willing to commit to Arlington for 5 years, give them a lower tax rate for a couple of years to get them in the door. At the same time, I think that what we also need to do is change zoning laws to permit more types of businesses to be able to locate in Arlington. And also, I think another thing that's very important is new development. If somebody puts up a commercial building or a residential building in any of the commercial corridors like Boston or Langston Boulevard or Columbia Pike, I think we need to protect our local mom and pop businesses so that we don't lose those businesses while the development's going on. So I look at it two ways. 1, entice business to come in, and 2, protect the African-American businesses we already have.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. A lot of wonderful ideas from these candidates around economic development. We're going to move on to a new topic of criminal justice. Well, kind of an old topic, right? A new topic for tonight's discussion. What is your understanding of the success or failure of Arlington to divert people who are unhoused, or the ones who have serious mental health issues or substance abuse or use disorders? What is the success or failure from those people being charged with nuisance or low-level crimes and entering criminal legal system, including jail? What would you do differently if elected? We're going to start with Ms. Peterson.
Thank you so much. This is a very important question and topic. I think this is something that is being confronted across the country. We have a mental health crisis. We have a substance abuse crisis. I think Arlington needs to do better, as does every community in our country. Something that I'm proud of having worked on when I was a budget commissioner is the Crisis Intervention Center, which was, supporting the funding to create the center, which would give police officers the ability to redirect somebody who is having a mental health crisis from usually going to the jails, but bringing them to this crisis intervention center. So the funding involves setting up the crisis intervention center, but also giving the police the funding so that they could do the training, so they know how to identify somebody who's having a mental health crisis, and then get that person the help, the public health that they need, rather than putting them in the jails. And that's good for the individual that's having the crisis. It's good for the police officer to de-escalate the situation. It's good for the jails because we don't have people in the jails that shouldn't be there. And it was good for our budget because it's so much better to invest in people and helping them succeed rather than just putting them in the jails. So that's the sort of programs that I would want to support. We now have, in 2018, we have the Marcus Alert that's going to get, again, helping to identify problems from a public health perspective. We have our MOST van. I would like to invest more heavily into these programs. We don't have enough mental health staff in our Department of Human Services. And so we really need to invest to make sure that we are getting the staff to do that. And we also have to work with Park Police as well as Metro Police so that they know about these programs and they have that as a priority, because right now we have some silos with our police departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Ms. Roy, same question. How could you improve the outcomes for these unhoused who are struggling with mental and substance abuse? What are your ideas?
Well, here's a couple of ideas, and just to comment and follow up on what Tenley just said. I mean, this is an issue all across the country. It is a really tough issue. We need facilities, we need programs. It was shameful last year when the county condemned the old Key Bridge Marriott and removed unhoused people from that property. It was just a very poor situation, and it was really unfortunate all the way around. So I think in terms of going forward, what we do and how do we focus on providing those kind of services, we need to look at our current fiscal situation. And I spoke at the budget hearing in front of the board the other week, and lots of folks have there's lots of needs in terms of services. You'd have to be unrealistic to think that you could solve everybody's problems. But one of the things that really struck home with me is drilling down to figure out where are we spending our money unnecessarily? Because to me, these kind of needs, services, mental health services, facilities for folks who are homeless, we need to make that a priority. And so what we need to do is look at our budget and drill down and see where is it that we can, what things can we do to be more efficient? So an example, we have many projects that we contract out for. What can we do in-house? Why are there so many vacant positions that are open that are still left on the books? So we need to be looking at that to really focus on this really crucial concern.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Mr. Spain.
Well, they say, what is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And here we are again, talking about an issue that has been around for a while. So what I believe seriously needs to happen is we need wraparound services. All of what you've heard just now is very pointed, but unless we are given the right resources to places like SIFA, Bugada, Restorative Arlington, and a host of others up front, right, and DHS to help, we're going to see homeless rates continue to increase, like we just saw in the news this past week, where it's already increased 17% since last year. So we need to make sure that our nonprofits are resourced appropriately. We need to provide those wraparound services and continuing to invest at DHS. But we have a way to go. Post-COVID, again, has showed us that things have definitely changed. The CA's office, the public offender's office, we need to have the right staff there. We need to have the right staff at the police department. And everyone needs to be, rowing in the same direction. Right now, too many folks are working in silos, and there's a lot of confusion. So we need a leader there that really understands, not at just the community level, but also the government level, that can bring folks together and work on the same accord. So I want to give resources, like I said earlier, to some of these nonprofits not just by them applying for grants or through NOFA funding, but I think people will be willing to give some of their tax dollars to put services up front to make sure we can do the preventative things up front.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita.
At one point in this country, there was a movement to release people who were mentally ill with the idea that we were violating their rights by keeping them confined. And I think that movement did those people an enormous disservice. I'm a criminal lawyer. I see people who are mentally ill show up in the criminal justice system all the time. In my opinion, what we really need to do is provide more shelters, provide more places for people who are mentally ill to live. There's simply no reason why some of these people should be walking around on the streets. And the long and the short of it is they get in trouble, not because they want to become criminals, but because they can't simply deal with the world. And they just end up in the criminal justice system when they really shouldn't be there. So the long and the short of it is, rather than criminalize these people, I think that what we ought to do is provide them with shelters, with facilities where they can live, where they can be monitored and taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. Ms. Farnham.
So about 80% of the people in our jail at any given time have mental health issues or substance abuse issues. And that's problematic. It's inhumane and it's also not cost effective. So we really need to come up with long-term solutions to help these people be healthy and be productive members of society. It's the best option. And I totally agree that wraparound services are great, but they cost money. So we need a plan to get money. There is federal funding available, and Arlington traditionally has not requested that money. Things like the Opioid Abatement Authority, Arlington received last year $1.49 per resident for out of that pot of money. Whereas Fairfax got $3.17 per resident. And they don't necessarily have a bigger problem than Arlington does, because I've seen the opioid fatality and overdose stats. And taxes are not, I think, an option. I mean, as someone like me, who's a single mom, like to increase taxes, especially after, the increase that we're going to see in this coming fiscal year, like it's not affordable in Arlington now. So to put more taxes on top of it is going to further exacerbate inequities. It's going to hurt other people who are maybe feeling like they're going to be pushed out. So we need to get federal money. We need to apply for that. And we need to provide these services to these people and keep them out of our jails.
Thank you all so much. Mental health and substance abuse, as you all mentioned, is something that is really plaguing all of our communities. And I think you all have a lot of really wonderful ideas, and hopefully they will be implemented by our those who are elected. Around this issue of keeping on that health line, let's talk about our health on the topic of health. Destination 2027. It's a report that highlights that there is a 10-year difference in life expectancy depending on who you are and where you live in Arlington. People of color, low-income community members, and other underserved populations were more likely to experience poorer health outcomes in the community. If elected, what actions would you take to ensure that the goals of Destination 2027 report becomes a reality? We're going to begin with Ms. Roy.
It is me. Thank you for that question, Veronica. I would actually really do a thoughtful beginning of looking at forming a task force to really come to grips with what are the big issues and how do we actually come up with a comprehensive plan. I think anything we do needs to be comprehensive. It can't be piecemeal. It can't be siloed. So we really need to cross cut against, across all the neighborhoods and see what are the proactive things that we can be doing. And so just on health in general, and we were just talking about budget, I think there's a lot of creative things and innovative things that we should be thinking outside the box. So an example, and this is just looking at the budget overall. The county board, and the Arlington, public schools have separate healthcare systems. I'd like to see about us forming one big comprehensive system which would actually provide more than likely better care and more services to more residents in the county. But I want to see us look at those kind of cutting types of efforts. But I think overall, we need to really plan, look at it comprehensively. We can't do it piecemeal.
Thank you. Mr. Spain.
Yes, Destination 2027 is an example of once the county puts in a policy, we don't follow through, right? I've had the opportunity to really to speak with some of the leaders on that, who put that together. And though we haven't completed all the tasks, to something Natalie just mentioned, I wouldn't reconvene a task force. I would just make sure we finish what we started, right? I think to the point about the expectancy, the life expectancy here in Arlington, you can see that in several areas, whether it's in Green Valley, different other parts of Arlington where we have low shade because of lack of tree canopy, directly correlated with the environmental impact. But we can also talk about the mortality rate, right, of Black women, which is at a disastrous rate. I think public education is important when it comes to health. And I would get back to the drawing board on Destination 2027, see where we are, see where we need to go, bring those folks back together, those that are still here, and let's complete the task. That's how we do it.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita.
You know, when you talk about healthcare, the first thing that comes to my mind is health insurance. And I think it's appalling that the United States is one of the only democracies in the entire world that doesn't have national health insurance. I think that one thing that I would try to do is advocate for that. I don't understand why we don't have health insurance as a universal type of thing. On a county board level, I think the best thing that we can do is probably educate people. I think that the county could probably reach out and provide education to people about various types of illnesses, and in particular in African-American communities, provide more information about illnesses that particularly affect people there. I don't know if the county can necessarily provide care in and of itself, but I'm quite certain it can provide education.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. Well, same question, Ms. Farnham.
So Arlington has 2 census tracts that are considered to be medically underserved areas. They're Green Valley and the Longbridge Creek area. And we also only have 1 federally qualified health center here in Arlington, which is the Arlington Free Clinic, which by its own admission has more demand than what it can meet. And we also have 4 census tracts that have more than 469 people on Medicaid right now. So it's definitely a need. Health and Human Services offers money to help set up federally qualified health centers. And we have not requested that. We do really need it. Alexandria has 6 of those health centers. We only have 1, as I mentioned. And so I would go to those medically underserved areas, set up a clinic. We can work with a nonprofit, or the county can get that money and request that money on its own, and really serve these communities, because the disparity in healthcare treatment in Arlington and elsewhere is very much a problem. And to not address it is it's not doing any service to the people of our community and to our community as a whole.
Thank you for that, Ms. Farnham. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you for this question. Well, first, I'd want to look at the recommendations from the report. They mentioned a health equity policy that we need to be supportive of the task force, but it must be actionable. We need to have oversight over addressing these issues. And then we need to think about the equity framework questions that we've referred to earlier about who benefits, who's burdened, who's missing. How do we know? And then what do we do? I think it's important to look at the different neighborhoods and look at, access to healthcare, children in particular, kind of investing in them while they're young, making sure they have access to healthy lunches, after school programmings, access to nature and outdoor time, and just kind of greenery in their lived environment. But I also think we need to meet people where they are and do intentional community outreach. The report mentioned that Black men are the most underserved, but the most in need of support. So I think we need to identify, the different communities and people that need help and do very intentional outreach. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all so much for those answers. Destination 2027 is a report that is really giving us a stepping stone on how to make those to meet the demand of our community. If I may, I'd like to move on to the question around housing, and I'm just going to use the abbreviated question here. If elected, what would you do to reduce racial disparities in housing in Arlington? And we're going to start with Mr. Spain.
Thank you for that question, as housing is near and dear to my heart as a human right. What I can personally do to reduce discrimination in housing, not much myself, but I tell you what we can do as a county. We can, one, let folks know and extend and use our resources at the county level, i.e. through our legal framework, to let folks know, should they be discriminated against or feel as though they're being discriminated against, that they should not fear retaliation and be able to report, right? We have come a long way, I think, in Arlington, yet there are still folks who have been discriminated against in mortgage applications and the type of housing they're receiving, whether even affordable housing, right? And so we need to also just make sure that those resources that we mentioned earlier are present, people know they can use them, and that they should report acts of discrimination that goes on. But for the county, that's what we can do. And then there's a number of agencies that people can file grievances and actions to take folks to court, right? That should not be happening in Arlington, any form of discrimination. And that's the very premise of this NAACP and many other organizations, right? To act as extensions of individuals. So I will be right there on the front lines, ensuring we have the resources and making sure that as a county, we are providing some oversight when it comes to housing and acts of discrimination.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita.
I think that what the county can do is just make sure that people are well informed as to what their rights are. I think the county should definitely have a website that provides people with a listing of their rights with respect to discrimination in housing. The other thing that I can do personally, I'm an attorney. I do racial discrimination cases. If anybody wants to give me a call, I'll sue them.
Come on, James.
Okay. Period. Okay. Duly noted. Ms. Farnham.
So I think the way the county has handled housing right now has actually exacerbated the inequities. Blanket rezoning is not going to achieve affordability and equity. The barriers, and I understand the argument of addressing discrimination that happened, in the 1920s, 1930s, but the barriers today are not the same barriers that existed 100 years ago. So if you just address the barriers from 100 years ago and do nothing to address the barriers today, you are not helping to create equity in home ownership. And it's a little bit of a disingenuous effort that the county is making because it's really market driven. And depending on developers to drive down prices when all they care about is profits is just not going to work. So we need to be more deliberate in how we create opportunities for home ownership and help level the playing field. I'd really like to see Arlington do something similar to DC's Black Home Ownership Strike Force, which provides down payment assistance and other services to really get that opportunity for home ownership, because it builds generational wealth, it just builds wealth generally. And so I would really be more deliberate in how we address equity and affordability in housing here in Arlington, because the way we're doing it now, it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Ms. Farnham. Mr. Peterson, Ms. Peterson, my apologies.
That's fine. So I first want to say, as a planning commissioner, I supported missing middle housing to remove exclusionary zoning. So I'm very proud of that work. I also think there's work for us to do to remove racist covenants from, deeds that we already have here in Arlington. A couple months ago, I attended the NAACP's Fair Housing Conference. There were a lot of good ideas talked about there to kind of decrease the racial discrimination in housing in Arlington, one of which was to fund a secret shopper program where we send people out to try to get an apartment and, send a white man to try to get an apartment and then send a Black woman and see if people are treated differently. And if they are, then we start collecting some evidence to show there is discrimination happening. And so Arlington has just recently started funding this. We need to make sure we continue to fund it, increase funding it. And the funding came too late. I mean, we should have been funding this a long time ago because people, as we know, have been experiencing this forever. So I'm glad that we're finally funding that, and I would continue to support that. I think we need more housing in general. I'm very supportive of our smart growth efforts to get more vertical density along our public transit corridors. We need more family-sized bedrooms, family-sized housing, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms in those high rises so that families can have access to walkable neighborhoods, public transit. Having access to public transit is very important. I've also been very supportive on the Planning Commission of providing on-site affordable housing when we do our affordable housing as a community benefit, as well as when we're looking at affordable housing and with our AHIF projects, making sure we get housing for people at 30% AMI so that kind of lowest income people have access to housing as well in Arlington. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Ms. Roy?
Okay, specifically on fair housing and making sure that people know what their rights are. I feel like we have to be much more open. We have to be much more visible on this front. I believe that it is important for the county board staff to go out to communities, to actually find out what's going on, to talk to people directly. I think it is imperative that we do that. So when discrimination is happening, people don't feel lost. They don't feel like they don't know what to do. They don't know who to talk to, that they are given the folks to talk to. They have people to contact, and that they have a face, they have a voice, and a face with a name that they can actually talk to. I think that's really important, number one. Number two, I think the current path that the county's taken on density is the wrong approach. It is not getting us more affordable homes. It is not getting us more, it's not promoting diversity. It is a developer-driven program. It's random densification. It has nothing to do with racist covenants and exclusionary zoning. It has to do with economics. And it is a very, it's a very irresponsible path forward that is creating less affordability and more gentrification across the board. And we need to reset. We need to look at a much more comprehensive plan of how we go forward, because we want to provide affordable housing. We want to promote diversity, but the way that the path we took last year in March of 2023 was the wrong path. And so I would suggest that we go back and we reset and we look comprehensively and holistically. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much for your answers. Just as a quick follow-up, and this is maybe a yes or no. Hopefully it's a yes or no. Well, yeah, it'll have to be a yes or no. If elected, would you work to resurrect exclusionary zoning in Arlington? You ready? Okay, you got your thoughts together? All right, Mr. Spain.
To resurrect exclusionary zoning, put it back to where, what are you talking about? Go back to where we were? No. And I'm just going to be honest for a second here, because I think we can have really a whole hour discussion on housing. And, the thought of reset means kicking the can down the road. And it also means that more people continually get left behind in the process. So I think as a county, we really have to think outside the box and be innovative, because time is of the essence. We have homelessness going on. We have people getting kicked out of homes, and we're talking about going back. People are tired of going back. People want to go forward. So we can be creative. We're smart. We're brilliant. And that's what leadership is all about, right? I think what we did with EHO and missing middle housing, though it may not have been the end all be all for everyone, was somewhat of a robust conversation. Was it perfectly right for everyone? Probably not. But we can tweak around the edges and enhance it and make it better. We have too many people that are leaving Arlington at an alarming rate. Businesses are empty. Workforce can't stay here. And people are talking about, let's go back and start over. I just don't agree with that methodology and approach. And I think that's not right for Arlington.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita.
Apparently, this is not a yes or no question, but I can answer it a little more fully. First of all, I think the question becomes, what do you mean by go back and what do you mean by exclusionary? The long and the short of it is, I think obviously, I think we're all aware that the zoning was used way back when to exclude people of color, and certainly that's reprehensible. I think the debate these days is about the missing middle and whether the missing middle is itself a form of exclusionary zoning. I would argue that it is. And my perspective is just this. The way it's set up, I think it's going to lead to gentrification. I think what would likely happen in a lot of places is developers are going to be looking for cheap real estate and an inexpensive real estate. And if they do, they're going to come to South Arlington where I live. And I think that unfortunately, if the missing middle is allowed to continue, what we might end up doing is losing people of color and losing Hispanic people simply because real estate developers, given the opportunity, don't care about affordable. All they want to do is make money, and I think they're going to be predatory. I think they're going to come to South Arlington. So the long and the short.
Time on this question, and we'll just give a minute to each candidate for follow-up. So, but that is time.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. Ms. Farnham.
Yeah, so I do think that there is a balance that can be achieved. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, EHO and missing middle housing and rezoning and equity and affordability. I think there is a balance that can be achieved. There are places where higher density makes sense. There are places where it doesn't make sense. But if given the opportunity to overturn the decision that was made last year, I would make that decision. And I just want to note too that, some of the candidates here, they've made that choice to live in a single family home. And I want to make sure that others have that choice as well. Just like they chose to buy a single family home, that there are other people who want that opportunity too. And we should have single family home as a home option for people.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
So as I said earlier, as a planning commissioner, I voted to support missing middle housing to remove exclusionary zoning from Arlington, and I would not support bringing exclusionary zoning back. Though while we were having this community conversation, I was worried about the potential for gentrification. And so as a planning commissioner, I introduced a motion and got support from my commission colleagues on this to build resources and toolkits so that existing homeowners could use missing middle to their own advantage. In particular, senior homeowners who raise their kids in their homes and now they have more home than they need, but they love their neighborhood. They want to stay in their neighborhood. They love their neighbors. They could get information about like how to put up a wall, how to add an extra door, and then turn their home into a missing middle house so they could welcome a young family in, get an income stream in their senior years, make any necessary improvements to their home. And then I encourage staff to do intentional outreach to historically Black neighborhoods and other neighborhoods of color to offer these toolkits, these resources, and offer trainings to say, like, we know that there's risk for gentrification in your neighborhood, and we want to give you an option to like stay if that's what you want. If you want to sell, like, that's fine, that's your right. But if you want to stay, here's a way that you could do that and even improve your investment and do better. So that's what I would support as a county board member.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Ms. Roy?
The answer to your question is no. And I don't know anybody who is speaking about bringing back exclusionary zoning, which was outlawed a long time ago in 68 and before. And obviously it was horrible and heinous practice. But I think going forward, we really need to be realistic about where we're going with this whole program. And I do, I support transit-oriented development. I support affordable housing, especially for our most vulnerable in our community, for promoting diversity. But let's be really clear. This isn't about missing middle. This is about expanded housing options. It was rebranded last year. We might as well just, take take the peel the onion and say exactly what this is. This is about random densification. It is not about affordable housing. It is not about teachers and firefighters and police and emergency personnel being able to afford these properties. My own home would probably be under an EHO, 2 townhouses, maybe a triplex. Each one would probably be in Lyon Park, 1.3, 1.4 million. I don't know too many teachers buying that or firefighters.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roy. President Mike.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, thanks so much. I just had to jump in briefly. Can you all hear me? I apologize for interrupting this, the forum. I just have something to say on this, and it would, I would be remiss if I didn't do it. So a couple things just on housing. You know, based on AMI, and I know we're talking a lot about, there's only 3 areas of Arlington where the average Black family can afford to live. And so some of you have alluded that, you know, racism is a thing of the past. We don't need to worry about racism now. The problems that we're dealing with now are not the problems that we dealt with 100 years ago. One of the candidates mentioned attending the Fair Housing Conference. At that conference, one of our panelists said the most egregious violation, racial housing violation that they'd ever seen in the history of this region was right here in Arlington, and it occurred 2 years ago. So these problems are very real, folks. With missing middle, I'm going to say a couple more things, and I'm going to bring it to a close. But it was 10 years of study, 10 years of conversation. The Affordable Housing Master Plan in 2015 is what kicked this off. And for those, it's very misleading, and all the candidates can speak to this. Right now, the ordinance allows for 54 properties out of 121,000. That represents a zero, and that's per year. That represents a 0.0004% change. The last thing that I'll say is every candidate on here said they would not bring back exclusionary housing practices. However, there is one candidate that did use a racial covenant to stop an effort to redevelop an upzone home. I'll let our members do their own research on that, and I encourage you to do so. And I want to encourage you to be honest. We're going to here to hold you to the fire, but racial discrimination, exclusionary zoning, things like Black people shall never be allowed to live here. Those are our things of the past, and we should never reenact them again. Thank you. And I'm sorry that
I just want to say, can I just say, I did not say that that racism does not exist. I opened with saying that racism very much exists. I thought this was a nonpartisan, and I'm really ashamed of your comments. I think they're inappropriate, and I just want to put that on record.
And actually, I would like to speak up as well. Can we? Are we allowed to rebut this or speak about this, Veronica? Or are you going to open up?
Well, since Ms. Farnham had an opportunity, should we go with like 30 seconds for each candidate?
Sure. Maybe a couple hours each. We'll just be here for all night.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
I am actually startled that that you would find it acceptable to intervene at this point and put your own personal spin on here, Mr. President. I do think that there's nobody here advocating and nobody here saying that racism doesn't exist. We're all looking and giving our best, our best faith efforts and putting our best ideas about how we would go forward for the better of the community. So I think what you just said was really pretty outrageous, especially since I know specifically what you're referring to. And it would be way longer than 30 seconds to respond to any of this. So I do think that was inappropriate. And I think everybody else deserves 30 seconds as well.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. We'll go to Ms. Peterson, if you would like to respond. Okay. Mr. DeVita, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I have no idea what.
Are you in a tunnel?
No, I'm sorry. I have no idea what the president was referring to. The only thing I can say is I've been against racism my whole life. I oppose the missing middle, but not for any racial reasons. I just don't think it's going to work. I mean, the long and the short of it is, I'm seeing prices between $1.4 million and $1.7 million for these new units. So I think that we can do better than the missing middle. I think that there are options like having private corporations subsidize the housing. I'd like to try to
30
convert.
seconds.
Well, I'll say something. Because I'll just piggyback off what Dave just said. James, I live in a house in Penrose. It was $524,000 in 2009. It's over $1 million now. Home values, property values aren't depreciating in Arlington. And developers have been building up in South Arlington for the past 10 years. So, I mean, the thought that, in my opinion, that, you know, somehow this is developer driven, they've been driving Arlington, building houses, 2,000, 3,000 square foot homes since I've been here for 15 years. I think what we need to look at is how we can come together, leave no one behind, and build attainable housing in a very methodical,
That's 30
deliberate
seconds.
approach. We have a home ownership study that the county's put in point. Let's see what happens when they release that in a few months. Thank you.
Thank you all for your responses. I think it's although, I mean, we have to have this discourse and it must be flushed out, okay? Truth must prevail. And I think there are ways that the members on this panel, on this committee, and the candidates here are certainly sharing their opinions. And this is why we have this. This is why we have these forums, so that we just get a glimpse. And just want to, again, remind everyone to go to the candidates' website so that you can see further information about each one of the candidates. So along that line, about political action. Let's go to political action. Arlington's current form of government was established in 1930. It is well documented that the county changed its form of government to weaken the political power of Black voters in Arlington. In the nearly 100 years that have followed since, only 4 people of color have been elected to the Arlington County Board. What are your thoughts on restructuring the county board to allow for more equitable representation? Mr. DeVita.
I like the idea of expanding the county board. I think that the proposal was to take it to 7 members. I actually like that. I think that's a good idea. And I also like the idea that, you know, we would create districts and that people would be able to represent a particular district. I think it makes it easier for people to have access to the people that they're being represented by. And in general, I'm all for it. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. Ms. Farnham?
So yeah, I would advocate and support the Tiger Report's a recommendation for having a larger board. And I'd also support electing the county manager. I think we do need to talk about districting. I know that districting was at-large representation was originally created to dilute voices or minority voices, but I also worry about gerrymandering. And so that I think we would need to have a larger conversation as a community to talk about that and to do what's best for the community and make sure that we have a variety of voices on the county board.
Thank you, Ms. Farnham. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. Well, I think representation is really important in our government as well as in our commissions and other important groups that help shape and make decisions about how Arlington should look. When I was on the Budget Commission, it was really important to me that a commission of such importance reflect the look of the community. And so when I first became chair of the commission, I actually looked up the demographics of Arlington County and then sought for the next 4 years to do really intentional work to diversify the commission by reaching out to different community groups, encouraging them to have leaders apply for the commission, working with the county board members to say, if we could identify a voice that was missing from the community in our stack of resumes, who could serve that need, inviting people in, welcoming them, interviewing, really trying to do work to diversify the commission. And after the 4 years, I think we did a really good job. And I was really proud of that effort. I'm supportive of Patrick Hope's bill to give Arlington more power in updating the government to better serve the needs of the community in this, in 2024 and beyond. I think it's worth a community conversation to find out what people would like. There's lots of options out there. So far, most of what I've heard is concern about setting up districts in Arlington specifically, because then different communities would only have one person to air their concerns about Arlington rather than having 5 or more people that they could go to about what's not working for them in Arlington. So people may get less representation that way, but I definitely want to have a community conversation. And if the majority of the community felt like districts are better, then I think that's definitely something we could look at. But a community conversation is important. But in general, representation is an important goal of mine that I've sought in the past and that I would continue to do so in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Ms. Roy.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of Patrick Hope's bill in Richmond that failed this past session. I'm a big believer that we need a bigger board, whether it's 7 or 9. I think 7 we would start with, but I really do think that would be better in terms of proportional representation in the county. I also am very supportive of exploring very seriously districts, some kind of hybrid where you have districts and at large. I do think that's important. We've come a long way since, the 30s in terms of population growth. We really do need something that's more representative of the county. I would also be very supportive of elevating the chairman of the board so that they would be, at least in some sense, in terms of the same, like in terms of equal or some more gravitas for them, so that they can, when working with the county manager, because we have county manager system that many times hides behind the county board, the staff, and vice versa. So I think that those kind of changes. I'd also like to see more diversity on the commissions. I think across the board, we need a bigger, more open, much bigger process of just getting the word out. Hey, here's this great commission. Here's what you can do. We want you. We want to get a variety of different people who are thinking about different things. That makes for much better, robust discussion. I think better outcomes. So I think on the diversity of thought, I also want to see a satellite type of version of county board meetings. There's nothing like going out into the community. We need to go out, meaning the county board would need to go out. The staff needs to be more public facing, and you get much more back and forth by doing that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roy. Mr. Spain.
Thank you for the question. Not to go deep into our form of government, but I am very open to exploration and looking at our form of government. But I will tell you a few facts. We have about 236,000 people in Arlington, about 150,000 voters. When I ask people what the form of government, most folks don't know what it is. So we have a long way to go when we're talking about educating the citizenry. But I am in support and believe that we should perhaps grow. We are larger than what we were back in the day. Representation does matter. It's been 2.5 decades since Arlington County has not had a person of color on the board. Think about that for a second. Fairfax County, their planning commissioners get paid. We may want to think about that as we look at some of our commissions and how we want to incentivize and bring people to work there. I sat on the commission for 4 years, and I was the only person of color. So we definitely need to diversify. And I know the county has done some due diligence and outreach, but maybe we need to incentivize and plant and pay them a stipend or something to that effect. I know another thing we need to do in these commissions and get folks off their personal emails. They're doing county business on their personal emails. So I believe if you're on a commission, you should have a county email. With that being said, demographically, we are unique. We're not the same as we were in the 60s. So we need to have a community conversation, perhaps a commission. And if need be, we'll see where the public wants to go. We'll put it before referendum and let the people choose. But it's time to have a conversation about our form of government. Thank you. Oh, and Patrick Hope's bill was not put, it did not fail. From my recollection, Natalie, I think he pulled it. I think that was the case, Natalie.
No, that's actually correct, but he actually didn't have the support for it. So it was going to go, it was the same thing.
He pulled it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all so much for your responses. We're going to move now to education, but before we do, I'm taking Natalie's cue. We're going to, if you need to stand up and stretch, I mean, or get a sip of water, please feel free to our panelists. We're all want to take care of our mental and physical health. You know, just stretch your legs a little bit, do some stretches. We won't mind. We're going to just keep this conversation going. So I appreciate all of you so much for your time tonight.
Maybe some yoga meditation.
Oh yes, for sure. We're going to go on to this question around education. Big topic. A lot to discuss here. Post-pandemic, mental health challenges such as anxiety, depression have been on the rise among our young people. What measures will you implement to support mental health and well-being of our students of color, especially those who face unique challenges due to systemic inequities and racial discrimination? We're going to start with Ms. Farnham.
So with their schools, what I'd like to see, we need mental health services in the schools, and we can't depend on the teachers to provide it. We need to have mental health professionals there. And with our school budget, I really do think that the county needs to do a better job at providing oversight to making sure that the budget is being spent on the things that are really needed. Because right now there isn't a lot of oversight. There's also not a lot of communication between the school board and the county board, and that needs to change as well. But students are struggling. I know my daughter, she has dyslexia. She was recently diagnosed with that, and making sure that she has the services and making sure that we navigate through the school system to get what she needs. Everyone needs to have that, and we need to have those services available. It comes down to making sure that we are funding our schools properly and not putting a increased burden on the teachers. Teachers should be focused on teaching. Mental health services should be provided by mental health professionals so that the students get what they need and they don't fall through the cracks, and that will impact them later in life.
Thank you, Ms. Farnham. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you very much. And so as a county board member, I would definitely want to work really closely with the school board to make sure that their needs are met. Since, you know, the school board manages the schools, the county board supports the funding to the schools. So I want to uphold our revenue sharing agreement. And I also want to make sure that we are funding kind of the wraparound services, if you will, that can support the schools. For example, the mental health professionals, the nurses that are in the schools. You know, our last budget did support some additional teen mental health counselors. So I would be very supportive of doing more work like that. I recently attended the Arlington United conference, which talked about ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. So I want to make sure that teachers are aware of those needs so that they can provide the right care to kids that they are educating, since kind of adverse childhood experiences really prevents kids' ability to feel safe at school and then to maximize their learning. I am currently a substitute teacher at Arlington Public Schools, and so I've experienced firsthand how staff shortages are impacting, in particular, our special needs kids. And so I want to make sure that our funding with our revenue sharing agreement does make sure that all of our kids' needs are getting met, including our marginalized communities. Before I worked at Arlington Public Schools, I was at Georgetown Day School for many years. And you may remember when Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was going through her confirmation hearings, the Republicans were harassing her because at GDS we taught anti-racism, and they were all yelling at her about that. And we were very proud for that experience. So that also helps kids feel safer in schools.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Ms. Roy.
So I saw this firsthand as well when I was coaching tennis. I coached over the COVID years, and it was very distressing to see kids who are motivated, you know, seemed like everything was great. And then 2020 hits and 2021, and there was just a gigantic difference. And a lot of it was mental health issues. There was a lot of struggles. And so I think this is a really important thing that the county together with the school board, the county board, the school board need to really collaborate and really look carefully at how we're providing these crucial services. There does need to be really good oversight, but we also need to look at, the preventative side, looking at those after school programs and everything else, but we also need to look at how we're going to pay for it. And I believe that this should be a real focus. Schools are critical to the county. I don't care if you have kids in school or not. I had 3 kids who went through the schools here. They did great. I loved it. I mean, we all loved it. And we were really fortunate with a lot of the after school programs, but a lot of kids don't have that. I would be really very much focused on seeing where we could find those cost savings to make sure that we have the things for our children. There's nothing more important than our students. I currently sit on the Joint Facilities Advisory Commission. And one of the things that I think would be that is part of that charge for that commission is looking at jointly held facilities. What can we do that looks at both school facilities and county facilities and maximizes the effectiveness for those. And also, as I said before, private-public partnerships are really important as well.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Mr. Spain.
Well, again, this is not a new conversation, y'all. Something I have been talking about as a community leader for several years. I tend to agree with what I've heard thus far, but I believe the scope of mental health is something that has to be taken really serious. I think we're all empathetic leaders and we realize the issue, but something I said at the beginning of this conversation, a successful first term for me would be DHS fully staffed. That's a goal. And I want to see, robust outreach throughout our community. I have witnessed childhood adversity from my children. My children have seen it from their friends. I too attended the Arlington Unite program this past weekend, but these conversations are a continuum. They have been going on, and everyone needs help. So again, I'm going to be a leader in this area, focusing on working closely with the schools, ensuring they have, like Tinley talked about earlier, we uphold our end of the revenue sharing agreement. We'll actually be a leader in this space to make sure we have really good collaboration with some tangible outcomes and not just kicking the can down the road and having shallow thoughts and empty rhetoric. We have too many silo effects going on in Arlington, and now the people that are just following things through. Thus, back to Destination 2027, right? It is not done. So I want to lead in this area. I want to work with our schools, but it's not just, listen, our kids, it's actually our early career professionals. It's actually families that are suffering as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita, what measures would you implement to support these students that are struggling with mental health, and it's particularly students of color?
Yeah, my wife is a school teacher, and she tells me frequently of a story about a student who actually committed suicide. And, I think that the problems that teenagers face are very real. And some of these kids have difficulty at home. They have bad home situations. And I think that what I would support is something where, if not each school having a mental health professional, that the county at least have a staff of mental health professionals that these kids can turn to. It would just be horribly tragic to lose a kid simply because we didn't have the resources available.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just as a quick follow-up, maybe a yes or no, if possible. There's a strong outcry from students and the community advocates. The county board has approved a $1.9 million investment in the year 25 budget that would fund after-school programs for 2 or 3 years. Would you commit to more permanent funding for after-school programs, Ms. Farnham?
Yes, 100%, yes.
Wonderful. Ms. Peterson?
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Roy?
Unmute myself. Yes, Veronica. Yes.
Yay! Mr. Spain?
Yes, but there's some extra to that. I mean, just keep in mind for folks that are here that we would have never gotten to that point without our citizens in the community voice and many other, and some folks on this call without us standing up together to fight for those youth. So yes, I'm for it. I'm for much more of it, right? But it has to be a baseline approach, and it's probably going to increase over time. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big supporter of education. I think that this is one of the richest counties in America, and I think that we should definitely fund whatever we need to do to keep our kids busy after school. I definitely would be in support of that.
Okay, thank you so much. And as a teacher, thank you for your vote of confidence. We do our best, from 8:30 to 3:30 or 4. But we definitely appreciate all of the community support that can help our kids. They need us outside of school, so need you outside of school. So thank you for that. We're going to move on to criminal justice. In the last 8 years, 9 community members have died in the Arlington County Jail, most of whom were people of color. What will you do to ensure that this does not happen again? What concrete actions will you take to increase accountability, transparency, and oversight of the Sheriff Department, which is exempt from local oversight bodies such as the Community Oversight Board? What will you do? Ms. Peterson.
Thank you very much. Well, we need to be doing everything in our power to prevent these deaths. It's completely unacceptable. These people are in our care and we need to keep them safe. Transparency is really important. We need to understand the cause of the death. If it's procedural, did somebody cause it? And also to acknowledge that the jails are not hospitals. And so as we discussed earlier, oftentimes it's not appropriate for a lot of these people to be in the jail in the first place. So we can kind of start a little bit earlier in the process to prevent people from being in the jails in the first place with our mental health services, our substance abuse services. And then when people are in jails, we need to work really closely with the police departments who are bringing them there, the hospitals who are discharging people back to the jail when it's not appropriate, and funding extra projects in the jails to keep people safe, whether that's new staff members who, for example, in the last budget cycle, we've got 2 additional medical staff that are going to be working in the jails that are going to report to the county instead of to this contracting company so that they can do a better job of identifying who may need medical care. Also, the additional sensors that we have on the incarcerated population for high-risk people to monitor, are there any needs? Do we need to do extra work to keep people safe? And also we need to do work to prevent the jails from going into lockdown because that's causes unsafe conditions. And we want to make sure that people are safe and healthy and have good morale. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Ms. Roy.
So it is unacceptable. I'm all about transparency and accountability. I do not see any reason why the county board cannot hold a public meeting to examine the issues at the jail, period. That's the concrete action I would take. There's deep concern in the community. There should be some light shed on what is happening. So that's my specific answer to your question. That's what I would do. I would call for that. Obviously, I would be one of 5 board members, but I think it's important to shed light on what's happening. And there's enough concern and enough, deep concern that I think we should do that.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Mr. Peters, pardon me, Mr. Spain.
Mr. Peterson. Tangible. What I would like to see in my first working with colleagues on the board is to make sure we have a medical doctor on site 24 hours a day. Right now, that medical doctor is on call. Call them on the phone. They'll show up. We have nurse practitioners there. We have LPNs. We also need to work on our diversion program so people don't end up in the jail. Okay. And so that's why I'm fully supportive of that. I took a tour of the detention facility last week and spoke with the sheriff, kneecap to kneecap with some deputies. And I've heard a few things. And we don't have enough time to discuss that tonight. But I know one thing, we need to make sure we get the pay up for our sheriffs. We need to make sure we have the upfront services and monies associated with anyone who steps foot at the jail to make sure to evaluate it. To the wristbands we talked about, you heard from Ms. Peterson earlier. The county did put some money in the budget, but we need to make sure we have the latest technology, right? But I have a strong opinion about who's in the jail. If you're a murderer, you're a rapist, and you're doing things you shouldn't, you're a menace to society perhaps, but there's other programs that we can have and we can utilize to keep people out of a detention facility. And that's where I want to put some focus of effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spain. We'll go to Mr. DeVita now.
I think the first thing you'd probably want to try to figure out is what type of deaths you're talking about. Are these suicides? Are these inmate assaults? I think that, I think the county board can definitely demand a report from the jail, first of all, just to find out what's happening. Another thing, and obviously if there's some, procedural or there's some staffing issue, I think that, we could certainly address that. The other thing that I would recommend, the sheriff's department has a whole bunch of vacancies. I'm in and out of the courthouse all the time. I go over to the jail quite frequently. And right now they're using security guards. They don't really have sheriff's deputies over there. I think we need to fill the vacancies in the sheriff's office. And I think just if we have more deputies, perhaps we can have the situation monitored more carefully. The long and the short of it is I just don't think they have enough personnel. I think we got to fill the vacancies. I think we got to get them up to full staff.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. Ms. Farnham.
So I do think that the jail should be subject to community oversight. I think we need to look at their processes and procedures. We don't know the nature of these deaths because they haven't been transparent about it, but I'd like to see someone come in independently, an independent auditor, and do soup to nuts. Like, what are their policies? What are their procedures? And how can they be improved? I also think that we need to have health services directly in the jail, and there is space to have like a clinic in the jail. So we just need to find the funding to make that happen, because it's difficult if someone is in need of urgent care or if someone needs to be transported to the hospital. It would just be easier if there was health services directly in the jail. And then on the part about transparency, they need to be transparent. It could be that there was nothing nefarious with these deaths, but we don't know, and we assume the worst because they haven't been transparent. And I'll just say, I used to work on the Boston Marathon bombing, and there was a discussion about a FOIA request related to that. And why did we naturalize Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the one who died? And it was because the FBI had said it was okay. And the question was, do we release that email or not? And I fought hard to release it because transparency is the best way to know, what actually happened and why, things happened the way they happened. And so I would strongly, strongly advocate for transparency.
I think transparency is one of the things that we're really wanting to see, literally. I think, Mr. Spain, you have a follow-up response?
Yes, and everyone can feel free to jump in. I just want to give a brief update. There's a correlation between paying a sheriff or deputy only $61,000 a year and expecting him, her, or they to be able to reside in Arlington. Think about it. They're going to need something if we want first responders, if we want teachers and everyone to live in Arlington, you have to pay them accordingly. And $61,000 is not going to cut the mustard. Only 21 deputies live in Arlington out of almost 300.
And I'll just chime in real quick. I agree with that. We need to provide the right incentives. We have to provide a competitive salary so that we have our essential workers, staying in the county. So that is really critical. And I think that's, and that was part of why, I was so disillusioned with EHO, because it was really supposed to be about missing middle housing. And that is really critical.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Ms. Peterson?
Yeah, I'll jump in too. I very much agree that workforce housing is very important. I would love to see the county staff start working intentionally to put together options, kind of in an economies of scale approach, negotiating with different landlords and apartments on finding deals. Public safety officers in particular can benefit from being a courtesy officer program that a lot of apartments have, where they can get like half off their rent down to free rent, but the county currently doesn't like organize this for them. So when they come to Arlington and they want to live here, they kind of have to like hear through word of mouth which apartments might want to offer that. And so I would love to see the county reach out with the different landlords, like figure out who needs courtesy officers, and then bring that to our public safety officers and say like, look, live in Arlington, you can live in an apartment for free or for half off. Like, that's amazing. And so that sort of public-private partnership wouldn't really cost Arlington any extra money, but would make such a big difference in the lives of our public safety officers. And then we could look at expanding this and finding economies of scale for our other workforce employees.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Mr. DeVita.
Yeah, I like the idea of providing housing for the police or the sheriff's deputies. I think the long and the short of it is we've got to do something to be competitive. As I've mentioned, there are a lot of vacancies in the sheriff's department. We also have a lot of vacancies in the police department. And I think that we have to offer them something. If it's help with housing, I think we have to do it. I wholeheartedly subscribe to the notion that, if you work here, you should be able to live here.
Ms. Varno?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do need to raise the pay. At the Capitol Police where I used to work, the pay was $77,000 a year, and that's the highest in this area. And so I would love to, and we have our sheriff deputies and our police officers working overtime, and they get paid 1 3/4 the hourly rate for their overtime. So I'd like to see a cost benefit analysis of what they're getting paid in overtime versus just paying them more and adjusting the pay scale. But with some of the housing issues, one of the problems that Arlington's had is that if they give housing or they give tax breaks for housing, it's taxed as income. So they have to pay taxes on their tax cut, which is a problem. And it takes take the state to change that rule. And certainly I would love to work with our state legislators to make it more feasible for more people, teachers, police officers, sheriff's deputies, firefighters to live here in Arlington.
Well, thank you all so much for your response just around this question of what is happening in our jails. We'd like to encourage all of you to consider joining the effort to call for more information to be released regarding these deaths. So please reach out to President Mike and members of this wonderful organization to become involved. All right. Whew. 2 hours have flown by. Oh my gosh. But we want to hear your closing statements. We've heard so much information about your positions. We want to give you now, sorry, but maybe one minute. But before we do that, let's just around the issue of criminal justice. I think there's a question that wanted to be asked. Can you ask that question? I think there's a question. I think there's someone who wanted to ask a question. President Mike?
Oops, I'm sorry. I think you just did a great job asking them for their commitment on releasing more information. So thank you.
Perfect. I almost don't want to go because I have learned so much. So thank you all so much. We're going to give you 1 minute to just share your, just highlight any specific actions that you will commit to that will help Arlington more equitable for Black people and people of color. Just in your closing statement. 1 minute. Okay, you ready? Ms. Roy. Ms. Roy.
Okay, I'm first.
Okay.
I love Arlington. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love Arlington. I'm committed to providing common sense, frank, and accessible leadership. This is not a stepping stone for me, and I hope to earn your #1 vote. And I want this election, but I want to say first a couple of things. Just thank you to you, Veronica, for managing. It's a tough job. So really thank you for a really good job, handling the questions and the responses and being fair to everybody. And I also want to thank my fellow candidates. I think it's very tough to put yourself out there. You're very vulnerable. It's not easy. A lot of people don't do this for precisely that reason. And I respect each and every one of you. I think we're all doing this for the right reasons. So I want to thank everybody who's running my fellow candidates. So thank you very much. And thank you NAACP for hosting this and having us all tonight, and the questions were great.
Thank you, Ms. Roy. Mr. Spain.
Well, thank you to the NAACP and to you, Veronica, for being such a outstanding moderator. I too am asking for your #1 vote and support in this Democratic primary for Arlington County Board for a host of reasons, all of which I cannot discuss or bring up in 1 minute. But I think what you're going to need and what we're looking for in Arlington County is not just someone from the status quo idealism, but someone who's going to push the county to be innovative, who also understands how do you operate in a multicultural dynamic of Arlington, but who also has gotten things done. I've served on commissions. I've served on working groups. I live here in Arlington. My kids went to APS schools here. I've championed so many tangible outcomes here, not just by myself, but with the help of many folks on this call. Some maybe are not on this call. I'm about bringing folks together because we are truly one Arlington. And if on the county board, I promise you that I'll work hard each and every day to make sure we leave no one behind. I'm proud to be endorsed by so many folks, of which I'm not going to call right now, but go to www.jdforarlington.com. Check it out. We'll love to have you on Team JD. And regardless of what happens, everyone have a blessed day and a wonderful year.
Thank you so much, Mr. Spain. Mr. DeVita.
I too want to thank you for inviting me here today. I've really enjoyed the back and forth, and it's always interesting. You always learn things when you do these debates. I committed to several things. In terms of the missing middle, I am all for affordable housing. My point of view is I think we can do better than the missing middle. I think the problem with the missing middle is they left the prices of these units up to the real estate developers. I'm seeing prices well over $1 million. I think that with the land alone in Arlington being worth $1 million in and of itself, we need to explore, getting private corporations to subsidize the housing. We need to explore converting vacant office space to affordable housing. I'm also all for education. I love anything to do with education. I'd like to decrease class sizes, get our school children out of trailers. I'd like to see if we can get more bike lanes and electric vehicles for the electric vehicle charging stations for the environment. And I'd like to see what we can do to encourage intelligent development that's environmentally friendly and also protects our local businesses. Those are all things that I would commit to. And once again, I sincerely want to thank you for inviting me. This has been very interesting and very informative.
Thank you, Mr. DeVita. Ms. Farnham.
So at the start of this campaign, someone asked one of my staffers why he was working with me because I was quote unquote a joke. Aside from being really sexist, I laughed when I heard that because let me tell you, this Julie is not a joke. I've published 2 books, including a bestseller. I've worked my way up through the ranks in the federal government, all the way to the top to become a senior executive. I have an advanced degree. I've managed $1 million budgets and hundreds of people and written policies, and I've started and I've grown my own business. Those are my professional credentials, but on a more personal level, I'm raising 2 wonderful daughters, and I have a loving and supportive partner who's an Army veteran, who fought in Iraq, and who came to this country as a refugee. For me, that's what politics is about, and I think that's what a lot of elected officials forget. Fundamentally, people want to feel safe, they want to have their families taken care of, they want to have enough food to eat, they want a place to live, and they don't want to have to worry about how they're going to pay their bills. So when I say I believe we can find common ground on challenging issues like housing, I truly believe it. We're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't work together. I'm tough, I'm a fighter. I think you guys got that memo tonight. I'm decisive, and I have a steely resolve to get things done. There's no one else up here who is more qualified than me to be a member of the county board. I would be honored to serve you, and again, I respectfully ask that you vote and rank Farnham first in the primary. And thank you, Ms. Jackson, for all the positive vibes. You are a fabulous moderator.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much. We're going to move to Ms. Peterson, whom I'm going to apologize 3,000 times for calling you Mr. Peterson. I had like 6 teachers who were named Mr. Peterson.
That's okay.
So it's on nothing but love, nothing but love. So Ms. Peterson, would you please give us your closing statement?
Sure, thank you. Well, thank you to the NAACP for hosting this event tonight and Ms. Jackson for moderating. I agree, you did a great job. I'm proud to be endorsed by current and former County Board members Takis Karantonis, Jay Facette, Katie Crystal, and Christian Dorsey, current and former school board members Christina Diaz-Torres and Barbara Cannonen. The people who've endorsed me know me. They know me because they've worked with me ever since I moved to Arlington. I'm especially proud to be endorsed by 40 commissioners and counselors who've also volunteered to serve the county and more than 20 Arlington Public Schools teachers and staff. These folks are our community leaders, our friends, and our neighbors, and they're what makes Arlington, Arlington. I commit to uphold Arlington's 2019 equity resolution, whether it's related to housing or housing discrimination, after-school programs or mental health funding, the race NOFA grants, or more. I really want this job, and I'd appreciate your #1 vote. And if I'm not your #1 vote after tonight, I would really love to be your #2. Thank you.
Well, President Mike and the NAACP Arlington branch, you have done your due diligence. You have let us know. So as I close on my comments, I just want to again thank all of these wonderful candidates. It's just so beautiful to see women, men, and I just love the energy. So I can tell and feel your passion for our community. And so I'm just hopeful that Arlington will be a better place because you will be a part of the decision making. So thank you again for having me. President Mike, thank you so much for the NAACP Arlington branch for providing this opportunity for us to get just a little glimpse at these candidates.
Thank you, Veronica. You were great.
All right, I want to bring us to a close. I do want to thank all of our members and special guests that attended tonight. On behalf of the NAACP, we really appreciate you being here. And Veronica, I know you made it look easy, but you were navigating a firestorm of behind the scenes stuff going on, and you did it in real time and you made it look flawless. So we really appreciate your leadership, and we're incredibly grateful for you. To the candidates tonight, I want to thank you for joining us tonight as well. As I bring us to a close, I'm reminded of why the NAACP was formed. The NAACP is the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization, where we've been around for over 115 years on the front line, fighting to push the line forward. Sadly, in Arlington, I tell folks this all the time, we're still fighting that good fight. As prosperous as our community is, we're one of the wealthiest communities in the entire world. A recent study came out and also said we're the most educated locality as well. Despite all of that good, there's still a lot of opportunity, there's still a lot of harm in our community, and there's still significant disparate treatment and impacts in our community. Tonight, we talked a lot about things like injustices in environmental climate justice, disparities in health, disparities in criminal justice, disparities in the right to vote, disparities in economic justice, housing, and education. And when I think about the totality of all of those disparities, it can become overwhelming to try to think about how does our organization solve that? And as I mentioned at the beginning of this call, we're blessed and fortunate to be one of the most active branches in the entire nation. When I think about all of those disparities, in my mind, many of them are rooted in housing and education. If we can figure out as a community, as a Commonwealth, or as a country, how to solve disparities in education and how to solve disparities in housing, many of the other disparities that we talked about tonight and more would solve themselves. And so I want to close just by saying this: who we elect matters. Your vote is your voice in action, and I hope that you will exercise that fundamental right to vote. We have 29 days until the election is over, but early voting is already open and active. And so, again, we've heard a lot from the candidates tonight. The research is out there. I implore you to please elect someone that is going to help close some of these disparities that we discussed tonight. And finally, I'm reminded of a quote from the late Congressman Lewis. He says, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It's the struggle of a lifetime. At NAACP, it's the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Thank you again on behalf of the executive committee and our members for joining us tonight. And please exercise your right to vote. Thank you so much.